The worst Secretary of Defense in history, and I think that's unquestionable, is having the worst week of his career. And that, my friends, is saying something. I mean, do you remember how back in March, Pete Hegseth somehow accidentally added a journalist to a group chat on Signal about upcoming military strikes in Yemen? And I mean, not just any journalist, the editor of The Atlantic who has covered national security issues forever. Well, tomorrow, the Pentagon Inspector General report on that incident, on Signalgate, will be released to the public. But today, sources familiar with the findings of that report told MS Now that not only was Hegseth's sending of war plans over a commercial texting app a breach of Pentagon protocol, of course it was, it also posed a risk to the safety of the U.S. personnel involved in the strikes. And that, which is a big deal, is not even the worst thing we are learning about Pete Hegseth this week. Because over the past 24 hours, there have been new developments in Hegseth's Venezuelan boat strike scandal. I mean, last night, Zeteo News reported that multiple lawyers within the Trump administration believe the way that strike was carried out was likely, quote, incredibly illegal. As one Trump administration lawyer told Zeteo, if the Washington Post is right, then a crime was committed. There's lots of questions about why that lawyer doesn't know more, but maybe we'll learn more about why they don't know more. So there is quite a lot. Here's my point. There's quite a lot of any journalist at all, might want to ask Secretary Hegseth about right now. He is literally at the center of many of the biggest scandals that have lots of questions surrounding them in Washington right now, which is why it is so notable that today, when the new Pentagon press corps got to meet Secretary Hegseth himself and ask him anything they wanted at all, they seem to have not actually made any real news at all. Well, I should say, they think they made news. But what they actually did was act, pretty much as Pentagon stenographers. As new press corps member Laura Loomer, of all people, put it today, quote, the attacks on Hegseth by the fake news media are unfounded. He is taking every question. Okay. Now, after that, Loomer posted her big scoop for today, which was a statement from the Pentagon spokesperson about the Signalgate Inspector General's report coming out tomorrow. And the statement claims the report is a, quote, total exoneration of Secretary Hegseth, adding that the matter is resolved and the case is closed. That is the information Laura Loomer used her direct access to the Secretary of Defense to get today. Now, meanwhile, despite Hegseth effectively kicking all of the real actual journalists out of the Pentagon back in October by demanding they sign a pledge to only publish Pentagon-approved information, real news outlet after real news outlet after real news outlet today managed to get people familiar with the Inspector General's report to tell them what it really said. And we here at MS Now got that scoop. The New York Times got it, the Washington Post got it, CNN got it, Fox News got it, the Associated Press got it, NBC News got it, The Guardian got it, ABC News got it, CBS News got it. I could go on and on and on, but you get the point. Real journalists who are from outlets that refused to sign the pledge the Pentagon demanded managed to make real news despite the fact that they are no longer allowed in the Pentagon. Well, the so-called new Pentagon press corps inside the Pentagon itself got diddly squat. But again, that makes sense when you look at who this new Pentagon press corps actually is. There's also far-right conspiracy theorist Jack Posobiec, who you might also remember as one of the main peddlers of the Pizzagate conspiracy theory, the conspiracy theory that led to a real-life shooting back in 2016. There is also somehow, and this may be the craziest of a crazy group, Matt Gaetz. Yes, the former MAGA congressman from Florida and former Trump nominee for Attorney General who resigned from Congress amid a House ethics investigation that found he had likely violated a range of state and federal laws, including in his dealings with a 17-year-old girl. Again, I could go on and on and on about this and who's in the press corps, but you get the point. The old Pentagon press corps of actual journalists is out of the building. And this new pro-Trump, pro-Hegseth press corps is in. And I'm not just saying that. To get into this new press corps, all of these so-called journalists had to sign an agreement saying they wouldn't gather any information that the Pentagon hadn't already approved for release. They signed up to be members of a newly created, basically state-run Pentagon media. And let me just show you another example of how this new press corps is completely warping the news. Just take 3 of the new press corps members. Laura Loomer, we already talked about her, Red State reporter R.C. Maxwell, and 23-year-old right-wing TikTok influencer Lance Johnston. Now, the reason I picked those 3 is that on Monday, all 3 of those supposed journalists reported that they had scored Washington Post Pentagon reporter Dan Lamoth's old desk. All 3 of them gloated that the Washington Post was out and they were in the Post's old cubicle, no less. Of course, all 3 of these people could not possibly have all gotten the Washington Post's singular old cubicle at the Pentagon. But, I mean, I guess let's put their fact-finding skills aside for a second and just look at how they reported on the Washington Post's actual scoop from last week. That in the very first of the U.S.'s strikes in the Caribbean and the Pacific, that's the story that detailed how Hegseth gave a spoken directive, according to 2 people with direct knowledge of the operation, one of whom said the order was to kill everybody. Now, that on its own is very likely illegal, according to a lot of experts. But when commanders saw 2 survivors clinging to the smoldering wreck after the first strike, a second strike was carried out to comply with Hegseth's instructions. And to be clear, that second strike, shooting the defenseless and shipwrecked, wouldn't just be a war crime. It's the literal textbook definition of a war crime. But check out how Hegseth's new press corps spun it. Laura Loomer reported there is actually a deep state coup happening at the Pentagon, and that all the negative press about Hegseth is actually just part of that nefarious plot. The headline for R.C. Maxwell's piece yesterday was, wait for it, WAPO's botched Hegseth hit job proves the Pentagon desperately needs new media. It's quite a takeaway. And the 23-year-old TikTok influencer Lance Johnston had this to say.
It is standard procedure to make for sure that the enemy is neutralized. It is not murder when Pete Hegseth and the Department of War double tap a narcotics ship that is shipping drugs that kill Americans to America. It is not that at all. I'm here at the Pentagon reporting.
Thank you, Lance, for bringing your extensive expertise on military rules of engagement to the Pentagon. Now, despite that being the new Pentagon press corps, the Free Press is still getting massive scoops nearly every day out of the Pentagon. Late tonight, the Wall Street Journal reported yet another devastating scoop about Pete Hegseth. This scoop centers on Admiral Alvin Halsey. This is the commander overseeing U.S. forces in the Caribbean, where the majority of these strikes have happened. And we already knew that back in the middle of October, Hegseth announced that Halsey would be retiring early, just a year into what's typically a 3-year tenure. But now the Wall Street Journal is helping us understand why. According to 2 Pentagon officials, Hegseth asked Admiral Halsey to step down, a de facto ouster that was the culmination of months of discord between Halsey and Hegseth. And that discord intensified when Halsey had initial concerns about the legality of the lethal strikes Hegseth was ordering on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean, per former officials. Now, I should say that Emmis Now has not independently confirmed that reporting. And for his part, Admiral Halsey has not commented. His retirement doesn't actually start until December 12th, so he likely can't say much, at least until then. But when taken together, all of this new reporting raises a glaringly obvious point about Pete Hegseth. Because for weeks now, Trump and Hegseth have been up in arms about a video made by 6 Democrats and former members of the military or intelligence agencies. A video where those Democrats reminded service members that they can and should refuse to follow unlawful orders. Hegseth has even threatened to court-martial Senator Mark Kelly for participating in that video. Now, the irony here, of course, is that Hegseth is now under scrutiny for the very thing those Democrats warned us about. I mean, not only do we have new reporting that the Trump administration's own lawyers think these strikes were likely unlawful, as well as this new reporting from the Wall Street Journal that the top commander in the region was concerned about the legality of these operations. But CNN has also uncovered a video from 2016 in which Hegseth himself says that the military shouldn't obey illegal orders and that there should be consequences when somebody commits a war crime. And to show you how similar Hegseth's comments are to the Democratic lawmakers he and other Republicans are now calling the seditious 6, absurdly, we did a little editing, our amazing team, of all of them into one piece. And when you watch those 2 videos spliced together, you'll see that their message flows, well, pretty seamlessly.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful, and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army, our Navy,
the Air Force,
There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
There have to be consequences for abject war crimes.
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans.